Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. This week, as a surprise visitor, we have Arnie himself. We also have senior middle hitter Mike Cummings. And when we come back, we're going to talk about a very successful weekend on the road with 2 big wins. So please stay with us.
Where have all the children gone? Long time passing.
Every day, 10 children are killed by gunfire. You can help stop the violence. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
Gone to graveyards one by one. Oh, when will we ever learn?
Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke. And this week, again, we are sponsored by Fujifilm and Synergy Energy, a consortium of the local REMCs. Well, Arnie, it's nice to have you back. I'm glad that last week you got off the golf course in Hawaii in enough time to go with us on the road when we played Mercyhurst and Penn State.
Well, you kind of hard on me right away.
Well, actually, it was Blake last week. He was pretty hard on you.
Blake,
Blake
was hard on me?
He sure was.
See if I grant him any more interviews. Take care of him.
Well, he doesn't need an interview from me. He'll just make it up. He seems to know how you think. He had all sorts of opinions about that. So
actually, he's better at it than I am. We just let him coach the team and do all that stuff.
Well, the second scariest thing about that trip last week is if you didn't get back in time, Denny was going to take over the team. But the first scariest thing was Denny kept threatening to take over the bus and drive it.
Oh, you mean when we went to Penn State and Mercyhurst last week?
When we drove through the mountains over the ice and so forth, Denny was running to get behind that wheel.
Yeah, he saw that big wheel. He kind of began to salivate, didn't he? I mean, he couldn't wait to get behind that. Thank goodness he didn't get behind there.
Well, there was about 6 of us ready to flatten him if he had made a move in front of that yellow line or whatever.
Well, I assume we're going to talk about that a little bit later, that trip. Or are we going to talk about it now?
We're going to talk about the trip now.
Oh.
The first segment we talked about last week, right?
I thought we were talking about Hawaii, so we're done with that. Huh?
We're done with Hawaii.
My suntan is beginning to fade. You notice that?
That's really too bad.
Yeah?
That breaks everybody's heart. We actually had 2 very, very good nights. We won both matches in 3. Mercyhurst was a conference match, so that was a big win, especially after they'd upset Ball State, so we didn't know what to expect. And then went to Penn State, played in the old gym there, whatever they call that thing, the one the basketball team used to play in until last year, and we beat them in 3.
You act like it's a big surprise to you. We might actually win.
Well, I'm going to ask why, after we'd won the second night in 3 straight, as we got on the bus, we looked at each other and both said we felt like we just lost.
I'm not sure why that happened, you know?
That long walk to the bus across the road into the parking lot, I got more and more depressed, and I had to pull out my stat sheet and make sure we really won.
You know,
why was that?
We did talk about that. We both looked at one another and went, God, did we really play? We did win, didn't we? It was kind of a flat, boring match, wasn't it? Was that the reason, or was it that big space? You know, it's a huge space. Even though they had a nice crowd, but the crowd never really got a chance to get into it right from the get-go because we took Penn State right out of their whatever their game plan was. I never could really figure it out for sure. You know, we took them out of all that, and it was just kind of not very. The match wasn't full of much energy.
It was in the third game where they actually played much better than the first 2, and that game was close most of the way.
But you know, I mean, the match ended up on them shanking one of our passes, and the setter kind of throwing it out there, and that left-handed kid from Canada rolls it out of bounds. I mean, it's kind of an anticlimactic kind of thing, and everybody looks at one another like, well, is this thing over with or what? But we won.
And that was an important match. Last week, in fact, Blake was talking about how even though the Penn State match was the only conference match we have in this 2-week road trip stretch we're on right now, it's important because postseason seeding depends on how well we do against Penn State.
Well, you know, he kept talking about how important that Penn State match was, and obviously now that it's over, it was really important. Before we played, it wasn't nearly as important because Mercyhurst was more important.
Yeah.
As you alluded to earlier, they beat Ball State earlier in the year in a conference match. Our conference is all screwed up now since everybody's beating one another. And we've never played well at Mercyhurst. You know, it's a, 6-hour bus ride or van ride, depending on how we go, and you get off and try and go play, and it's a small gym. and you're the guy that's supposed to win. So Mercyhurst is always excited about playing you. But we went up there and played really well.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever beaten them in 3 in their gym before.
Well, certainly not. You and I were talking about that. Not that I recall, but we started off right from the very beginning and played really well in that match. The only part I was disappointed at, and I kind of got upset with the kids about afterwards, was we had them down 2-0, and really I thought we were playing really well. And in game 3, we came out and let a ball fall in front of Scotty, and then I think we made a really bad set.
Well, the first serve in game 3 rolled under the net.
Yeah, I mean, about 3 things in a row that weren't very good, and so obviously that's a concern, because once you're playing well, you need to continue to play well, especially on the road against a team like that. But we did come back, and fortunately, I think Jeff had really a good weekend. Hector had a good weekend in Hawaii, but Jeff had a really good weekend both Friday and Saturday.
Right.
And of course, Scotty came alive on Saturday, so made a big difference.
The other thing that was somewhat different for us about this weekend is that in both nights we jumped out to an early lead. And typically we fall behind in game 1 and then settle down and come back. But both Friday and Saturday night we jumped out to a big early lead.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Once again, I'm not sure why that happened, other than maybe we were a little more focused this weekend. The weekend in Hawaii certainly was a wake-up call for our kids, and we talked about it a whole bunch last week, about the fact that sometimes you're not as good as you think you are, and you have to go back and refocus your thinking in regards to your practice effort, but your game preparation, etc. And I really thought that, considering the long road trip and stuff, our kids were pretty well focused. I also think they reflected back on the Ohio State match, and we had a lot of adversity there that we've talked about, but the kids should not allow that to affect them, and I don't think that they were going to let that happen on this trip.
Another thing that we were very happy to see is Scotty Lane's been struggling offensively all season, but on Saturday night when we got into that dead spot in game 3, and Penn State was, in fact, they were even ahead of us for a while, I believe. He made a number of really good kills right in a row, where he hit it very smart against the block, tool the block, as we say, and or get it around the block. And I think there were 3 in a row, and that really helped fire us back up to make the final push.
Well, if this team's going to be good, Scotty has to carry his share of the load. I mean, it's no secret that Jeff and Hector and Scotty are 3 main offensive go-to guys. And, of course, Penn State, having played us 2 weeks before, knew that Hector and Jeff were going to see a lot of balls, so they were loading up on us on the outside right away. I mean, right from the very beginning. And so that gives us an opportunity to go back to Scotty, and if he doesn't perform, then it makes it very difficult for us to be successful. The other thing that does also is open up our middles, and Mike Cummings had a really good night offensively. Real pleased to see that happen, because we have to certainly get some additional production out of our middles, and that did happen on Saturday night with Mike.
We're going to talk more about that when Mike comes on in the next segment. But the other 2 things we talked about 2 weeks ago, and again with Blake last week, that our struggle in Hawaii and even with Ohio State, we were really weak in the fundamentals, passing and serving, and both of those improved significantly this weekend.
Well, I was real pleased with Friday and 2.5 parts of Saturday. We got in the middle of game 3, and we lost that little bit of confidence in our serving, so obviously we're going to spend a lot of time working on that, because we got to be able to go back and bang the ball at 14 all, just like we can at 0-0, except the one Patak hit underneath the net on the serving beginning of game 3, I think that was. But that serving part, we live and die off that serving, because it's a direct related to our ability to pass as well. So we've got to keep working on that. But I thought for Friday night, and once again 2.5 games on Saturday, that part of our game was much improved.
After 5 nights of missing our serving goal, we finally made it on Saturday night, and I think we might have, maybe Friday night we made the passing goal for the first time.
Well, I thought we played, our passing was much improved Friday and again on Saturday. And in particular, if you look at Saturday, the serving of Angel Ruiz really helped us. I mean, we scored a lot of points when he served. He kept that jump serve in. It wasn't real tough, but it was in all the time.
And they had trouble handling.
Yep.
When I come back, I'll have Mike Cummings with me, and we'll talk a little bit more about what Arnie just said, how he had a very productive night this last Saturday night. So please stay with us.
What would you do if you had to choose between the buffalo and the giraffes? Between a flower or an elephant, what would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a million-year-old beach? Between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Would you make the right choice? Would there be a right choice? Now there's a way to help. Not just one, but all these things. Earthshare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with. Ask your employer about workplace giving.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Our guest this week is senior middle hitter Mike Cummings from Young America, Minnesota. You got to love that name. That town. I'm going to move there when I retire.
Every year you go on my town.
Young America. Well, it's better than Gislin's hometown of Redneck or whatever it's called.
Redneck, yeah, you always teasing about that.
So, Mike, this is probably the last time you'll be on this show because it's your senior year, and we generally only get players on once a season. We're going to talk a little bit about your career here and where you're going to go next towards the end of the segment. But let's first talk about this last weekend. You heard what Coach said last segment about how this was an important weekend and how the team responded very well to that. He said specifically you did offensively after having a rough 3 matches in Hawaii, you and Angel both out of the middle. How do you react to that?
It was great to come back this weekend and come in with a couple wins, pull them off after being in Hawaii and playing those good teams and that atmosphere. Playing in that gym should have been so much fun to play in that gym, but it was tough because we struggled the whole tournament out there. But coming back and when first going to Penn State, I walked around the campus a little bit and I checked out their school newspaper, and from the sports section I picked up that they wanted to prove that last week in Hawaii wasn't a fluke. And while they certainly failed at doing that, last week we did kind of prove it was a fluke. We beat them in 3 real easy, and we started out strong when we were there, and Scotty picked it up on the backside, and they were trying to key on Jeff and Hector just like we figured they would, and it opened up for the rest of us, and we had a real good night because they weren't expecting it from us at all.
Even though you had a nice night hitting in terms of percentage, you still didn't get as many sets as what you typically would get last year. You or Angel, either one of you. So, and that in large part is no doubt due to our passing needing to settle down so that we can get back into a normal offensive flow.
Yeah, gradually, one thing at a time, we're improving on what we were struggling with out in Hawaii, and I think starting off this weekend, I think we started off picking up our serving real well, and I think that's what enabled us to win as quickly as we did.
Actually, I think you may have had the best serving effectiveness of the team, and you're one of the few non-jumpers we have, and people think, well, that ought to make your serve much easier to handle. Well, when those jumpers are out there snapping it off, it makes your serve better, doesn't it?
Yeah,
and your softer serve, your floater serve, makes their jump serves more effective. Everybody kind of helps each other out.
Yeah, it kind of mixes it up for the other team. They're expecting the hard jump serve from the other guys, and I come in there and kind of mix it up with a floater. And certainly because it is a floater, it's an easier serve. I should be more effective with it. And this weekend, I think I only had 1 error out of all 6 games. So.
And you also, as a float server, have more ability to control where it goes. It's a little harder for the jump server who needs to hit it hard, but you can control a little more. For instance, with the shorter serves that drop 3 or 5 feet behind the net or whatever.
Yeah, trying to make those passers move on the other side of the net, and that's what that serve does.
As a middle hitter, you're probably most affected by the new change to the libero because typically on our team as well as most teams, the libero always plays back row for the middle hitters. So you're no longer playing defense for us. I don't know whether you missed that or not. It's certainly the least glamorous part of volleyball.
Yeah,
but by the same token, it also gives you a chance to get some rest in between your front row appearances.
Yeah, it does give us a chance to get a little rest, and maybe takes us middles out as the weak spot in that defense, having somebody come in that specializes in defense. But yeah, it does help us focus on the other things that middles do, such as blocking, hitting, and serving too. It helps us be more rested throughout the whole match.
In some ways, the middle has one of the most physically demanding positions because on the block, you not only block your position in the middle, you block both antennas, and you move with that set. You also are constantly getting off the net, going back up on transition. You're jumping a lot.
Yeah, we're moving on every play. Some of the other positions aren't moving as much. Everybody's always moving, but we're definitely moving as much as we can every play.
So the rest is something that's very useful.
Yeah.
And you did not volunteer to give up your position as a middle hitter to become a librero, right?
I don't think I'd do very good at that. I'm not the best passer.
Well, last year we'd have had a real decision to make. I think Coach would have had to decide with Ryan Perrott being probably our best defensive player on the team.
Yeah, that's true.
I doubt that he would have sent the librero in for Ryan.
Ryan was out there. He was going for every ball. He did have a great defensive attitude, and I caught his TV show here the other night. He's moving up from volleyball. He's into TV now.
What's he got a TV show on?
Oh, I think it was a taped show from last fall.
Must have been a hockey show or something.
He interviewed Elvis and Hammer from the 99 morning show. It was interesting.
Well, he does want to go into that, and when we did the one women's team match earlier this fall, I did the color commentary, and guess who was the play-by-play man? It was Ryan.
Ryan was
his first time on TV. He was nervous.
Oh, was he?
He was really nervous, and he actually was a little reluctant to talk, and you can imagine that out of Ryan Perrott not being willing to talk.
That's got to be the most unusual thing I've ever heard.
Well, you've spent 4 years here. You know, we've talked about Ryan and some of the other players that you've played with in the past on some good teams. Last year, we almost made it, and not quite, and a couple injuries and a bad call, and any of those things a little different that Thursday night in Los Angeles, and it could have come out differently, couldn't it?
Oh yeah, you can't blame it on any one play. You know, it's just everything together, and however it comes out in the end.
What does that do to the mental preparation of players over the summer? There's a disappointment period, then you kind of got to get back into a physical training regimen. Then you come back in the fall and go through the equivalent of spring training for volleyball, which is no fun.
No.
And you don't get to compete really. And then you get the Christmas break, and then all of a sudden you hit the road hard. We had a home tournament. We go out to Hawaii, then we go on. We play 5 matches over 2 weekends after that, all on the road.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, but when you look at it, having experienced last year, coming down to it in the end, last year it was the same way. We had worked all year, the whole year before, trying to make it to Hawaii, which is where the finals were that year. And last year, having made it to LA, enabled us to get to Hawaii this year by invitation since we made the Final Four. And when, having been at that last point last year, I'll just know after all the work since last season and now having some tough weeks on the road, I know it pays off in the end. And I know what we're all working towards, and I know how great a feeling it is. And it just, it stays with you as motivation. And it's fun every chance you get to play, even if you are on the road and it's tough and it's not that good a team. You know it's practice for the end where it's going to be fun.
Well, after that disastrous road trip through the snowstorm to Ohio State and then the loss in 5 there, we felt we were a better team than Ohio State. All of a sudden we find out we're at the bottom of the MIVA standings. But now Loyola has beaten Ohio State. We talked about Mercyhurst beating Ball State. Everything's getting all confused in this conference.
It's all crazy right now in this conference, which is good for us because we're starting out coming back in. We're coming back on top. We're climbing on top, and we're still going to be the team to beat.
Well, certainly Loyola will want to take a shot at us since they've knocked off Ohio State, but then they lost to Quincy or someone.
Yeah.
And we're playing both Loyola and Quincy as well as Clark College in Dubuque, Iowa this weekend. So
you really can't tell how anybody's going to beat.
No, you just have to prepare for every day one at a time, don't you?
Yeah. Just go out there and just play your best, and you're going to win in the end if you keep playing hard.
Well, clearly I want to ask you what the goal you seniors have set for the team, because we all know what that is. So win a national championship, and to do that we need to win a conference championship, and to do that we need to go in with a strong conference record. So we'll just accept that and go on. But personally with your life, you're a senior now. Where do you stand in terms of graduation after this semester?
I'm graduating here in May. It's coming down to the end.
You're going to do it in 4 years.
Coming down quick. Yeah, I did it in 4 years.
That's really something that's impressive, because not only do most of our students take more than 4 years because they have jobs, but an athlete, you work close to a 40-hour week between the practices, the travel, the weight room, and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's not easy to do, and having a tough load of classes, I definitely can't see any freshmen coming in and doing it right away. It takes some getting used to and managing your time and getting things done and knowing what's expected of you and what you're going to need to do. And now I got a pretty heavy load here in my last round, but I took some time in the summer to get some extra classes in so that I could finish up here in 4. And some of the other guys haven't been able to do that. They've they've had other things they've needed to do, such as work or whatever. I've been fortunate to be able to stick here in the summer and finish up so that I can.
What's your major?
General studies major, and
With an emphasis in?
I've got 3 minors, one in psychology and one in OLS and one in communication. So
Wow.
I got a pretty well-rounded education here. I'm very
I had
pleased.
trouble with 1 major, and you're taking 3 minors. And then your plans for next year?
I'm going to go home, take a break this summer. It'll be my first summer off. So I'm going to take a break, and I'll go from there. I'm going to be a big brother for a while, I think, when I go home.
Big brother for Tim. Out in
Yeah.
Hawaii, your family's there. Tim was being buried by brother Steve
Yeah.
and his friend with the green hair. I forget his name.
Gary, yeah.
Gary, yeah.
He was getting picked on by the older guys, and I haven't had my chance to do that too much. So,
So you're going to spend the summer picking on poor Tim?
Maybe I'll try and be the nice guy.
Probably be a nice guy. Okay. That was senior Mike Cummings, who is finishing his 4th season with the volleyball team and will be graduating this May. So when I come back, Arnie will rejoin me. We'll talk a little bit about the upcoming matches. Please stay with us.
As the American military gets smaller, who will be there to answer the call? They will. They're the National Guard and Reserve, and they make up half of today's military forces. As an employer, you may be asked to support their mission. Remember, their response depends on yours.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Arnie, we got 4 seniors on this year's team, all in the starting lineup, and actually I think I'm going to miss some of those guys because it's really a nice bunch in terms of being personable young men, being responsible in a lot of ways. There haven't been any kind of disciplinary problem, and the only way you can get mad at them sometimes is when you don't think they perform up to expectations, but that's about the only complaints you can make.
With the exception of the one who changes his color of his hair all the time.
Well, yeah, Hector, we'll have to take him back to Puerto Rico. His mother made him get that out of there
At
the
least
last
it's- at
time
least
she
it's
saw
not
it.
bright red. The blonde's okay.
Well, he had
And if
bright
we-
red when we played Ball State, of all people.
and
Which
if we
was
keep
interesting.
winning with blonde hair, we'll keep her blonde. But you're right. Absolutely correct. All 4 of those guys are just really quality guys and have put up with a lot of crap from yours truly and have done a really nice job both not only on the floor but in the classroom as well.
We have 3 conference matches on the road this weekend. Loyola, I think we mentioned in the last segment that Loyola upset Ohio State this last week, and they also lost to Quincy. And none of that makes any sense, does it?
No, none of it makes any sense. Actually, the whole country's screwed up. You know, Ball State and Lewis beat Stanford last weekend.
Both of them fairly easily, apparently, from scores.
Pepperdine lost to BYU. BYU lost to Pepperdine. USC beat UCLA. I mean, it's all screwed up, including our conference. And but obviously, the win with Loyola over Ohio State's a good win for us.
It erases the loss we had to Ohio State
That's
in
right.
that regard.
You know, we get to play Ohio State at home, but now we have to go take care of business this weekend because not only is Loyola a good team, but we have Clark sandwiched in between Quincy and Loyola, and Quincy's on the road, and obviously they've beaten Loyola, so the conference is much better this year. I'm not sure that the top level is better, but certainly across the board it's much stronger.
And of course, when we go to Quincy, we'll be playing against Denny Johnson's favorite opposing player, Mr. Steinkühler.
Well, just before we started taping today, I was breaking down tape on Quincy, and they've got a couple other kids. They got 2 kids from Brazil that are pretty good too, and they got a 6'10" middle. So they got more than just Mr. Steinkühler, and it's really kind of ironic because both teams, Loyola and Quincy, their major strength is at the opposite. Steinkühler and then Pep kid from Loyola, who sees a lot of balls. So they're very similar teams in regards to the personnel they have.
I was looking at the box score from the Loyola Ohio State match. We talked last segment with Junior about how the middles haven't been getting a lot of sets, and a lot of it has to do with our passing. Their middles weren't set much. It was all an antenna game.
Both teams are real similar to us in that regard, except that we're actually stronger on the left side. Both those teams are very, very strong at the opposite, and of course we like to think we're pretty strong there too. So, but none of the teams run the middle regularly like what we saw at UCLA and Hawaii.
With a three-match road trip, you got Friday night, Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. You've got Loyola first, and Loyola you'd think is probably the toughest of the three, so at least you can focus on that one. The players won't look past them. But then they've got to right away come back for Clark, and then back for Quincy as the third match in a row.
Yeah, it's not the greatest schedule in the world, but when you look at the economics of our program and the logistics of travel, I worked really, obviously, very hard to put this particular weekend together so that we didn't have to make a trip clear out to Dubuque, Iowa, and then come back and make another trip to Quincy. So we can patch it all together, and then I think we have a couple weekends in a row where we just have one match and they're at home, where we can actually have some recovery time and do some training kinds of things that we need to do. I know we haven't been home for a long time, but once we get home, we stay home, and the training phase of our season will really kick into gear.
Well, speaking on behalf of your old guy type assistant coaches, we like the idea of one trip to the Mississippi River each season, not two.
Well, I think we have to get through the thing, obviously, but I think once we get through it, hopefully can be successful, the kids will also appreciate not having to make back-to-back trips, or at least two trips way out west.
And the other thing, this is an important statistic. This comes from the coaching staff. We figured this out. That when we take Dave Skelton with us on the road, we win. When we take Gloria Staveric, we lose.
That's a no-brainer then, huh? Is that
No-brainer.
what you're trying to say? It's a no-brainer. So. Gloria never travels again, and David has an open invitation.
However, we will make one exception, that Gloria is allowed to continue to bake cookies for the trip. The players will be allowed for that.
Those cookies this last weekend were very good. Between her and Cheeks, why we don't lack for nourishment. That's for sure.
That may be part of our problem. We're all sugared up.
Oh, that could be too, actually. But maybe that's okay, because we certainly played well last weekend.
We played well. So we're on strictly a cookie diet from here on out.
With all three of these matches being MIVA matches, I mean, this weekend could be really a major, I don't want to say jump start, because we got jump started last week, but continue our momentum to where we want to try and go.
And it should put us on the top of the MIVA if we can win these three additional ones.
Once again, we can't get ahead of ourselves, but because obviously we have to go in and play, but hopefully we can be successful and be at the top.
Well, let's do that.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Are you done?
I'm done. The music started.
You want me to say something else?
I better shut up.
That's one of the things I can say if you want.
For our sponsors, Synergy Energy, the RMC Group, and Fujifilm, and for head coach Arnie Ball, this is Mark Franke saying thanks for watching, and so long until next week. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show, and I can tell you we are very happy to be back home after 4 weeks on the road. We're going to talk with senior setter Chris Gislin today, review last week's 3 big wins in the conference, and look forward to this weekend's match with Mercyhurst. So please stay with us.
So what do you think? You hungry?
Yeah.
To be a mentor, you don't have to have all the answers. You just have to be yourself. Do good. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and once again, our sponsors are your area REMCs going under the name of Synergy Energy and also Fujifilm. Well, Arnie, we've been on the road now for about 18 years, and we're finally going to get to play at home this Saturday night. And the amazing thing about it is that over the last 2 weekends, when we had not only a rematch with Penn State, but 4 important conference matches, we have not lost a game. In 5 matches, we are 15-zip in games. That's pretty good.
You know what's more amazing than that? Is this the 5th show? 5th week? Sixth week. 6th week? And you finally got the sponsors' names right.
I've gotten them right every week.
Nah, you were good today. You were really good today. I'm really we got to take you on the road more often because you're really good on the road.
Really good. Yeah, right. Okay.
Huh?
Okay. Well, I'll
Except for the heat in the hotel room. It's really, you're terrible at doing that.
Those hotel rooms are terrible.
Not putting you, not letting you be in charge of that.
We actually had the air conditioning running in one of them.
You take the money, I'll take the heat.
And then there's no heat on the bus.
Wow.
No.
Anyways. Hey, how far is it from Fort Wayne to Los Angeles? How many miles?
2,000 approximately.
Is it 2,000? I thought it was further than that, but whatever. Do you realize?
I rounded.
Do you realize in the last 2 weekends that we have driven over 2,000 miles?
Yeah, both the last 2 weekends, the trips were 1,000 miles in a bus. We do our best sleeping in the bus, sprawled out across about four of those seats. It's nice that volleyball only has 12 players because that gives everybody a whole row to himself.
You know what? We only play about 7. Why don't we leave the other 5 to home? We'd have more room yet.
Actually, if you did that, then the coaches would outnumber the players. We got a lot of coaches, you know. And the fact that Wendy's we went to, they said coaches eat free. I said we have 5 coaches, and they said, kind of swallowed, and said, well, it's our policy.
That's why I ended up paying. Because somebody had to pay. And
well, Coach Johnson was the one who debated the policy right after you, and he got it free.
You guys didn't tell me until after I'd already paid.
Yeah, that's okay. You're the one who makes the big bucks on the team. The rest of us are all volunteers.
Is that right?
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm sure people want to know about how we played.
Play what? Oh, volleyball?
Volleyball. We played Loyola on Friday night. In fact, although we won in 3, you'd think that was easy. Those 3 games were won by a total of 7 points. I think probably it was the toughest match we've had all year. It just seemed like a constant war.
I thought it was pretty easy. We won in 3, didn't we?
We were looking at 14-12 being game point being served at us several times in game 2, and then we got down 8-1 in game 3. Now, if that's your definition of easy, I'm just hope we don't have many more easy matches because I don't think we can take it at our age.
It's becoming at your age. Speak for yourself.
Yeah. If you think back 10 or 20 years, you'd remember my age.
I got to think about that for a second. I think you cracked on me, but I'm not sure. You know what? This is becoming a track record with this team. We just decide we'll play behind, we'll go behind, and then okay. Since we're behind, maybe we'll play a little harder.
We had the same problem Saturday with a very improved Quincy team. We won the first one fairly easily, won the second one 15-0, which is always a bad thing to do. Never win game 2 15-0. And then we all of a sudden just ran out of gas after all that travel. We almost lost that 3rd game. If we'd lost that 3rd game, we'd have been in a world of hurt.
Well, I kind of liked your suggestion that we at least have 1 point for next time. We're close to that.
Yeah,
I think we ought to just give them a point.
Lisa and I talked about that at timeout about 12-0 or 13-0, whatever it was. So we got to give them a point.
Say, here, take one.
No good ever comes from beating a team 15-0 in the middle of a match.
Always at the end.
Always at the end.
That's the key.
Yeah, you want it for your 3rd win of the night, not for your...
at the end.
That's right.
Hey, what more great things can we say about our kids than what you've already said in regards to the fact that we've been on the road for a month? We played 3 matches last weekend, played the 2 the weekend before after we got back from that long trip from Hawaii, and our kids have just stepped to the plate and said, okay, coach is a screwball because he's put the schedule together. No matter how bad the schedule is, we're going to just go out and play hard and take advantage of the opportunity. And certainly at Loyola, being down 14-12 in game 2, we could have said, okay, we'll just kind of let this one go and get the next one. We didn't do that. We got down 6-0, if I remember right, 8-1 in game 3. Could have done the same thing. I've been talking to these kids all year about this patience. Because the volleyball, as our scoring system is right now, certainly takes a lot of patience. And as good as we are and have the potential to be better, if we have patience, we can play with and overcome any odds that I think this team is faced with, and they proved that this weekend.
Well, you and I have argued certainly enough in the past about the change the rally scoring, whether we ought to do it or not, and I'm sure people at home don't want us to go through all that again. But I think the way we play, we'd have to completely change our philosophy of how we play, because we wouldn't be a 500 team if we had to go rally scoring.
Well, we certainly would have to improve our serving. There's no doubt about that. We give up too many unforced errors in serving. And the same thing is true with just depending upon our side-out game. I mean, in that rally score game, you've got to score some some points off defense, and our defense is not as strong as it needs to be because we depend upon our ability to side out, and we're pretty good at it.
Well, on the flip side of that, as long as you can side out, you'll never lose in a rally point game. But we go into periods where we don't side out. We give up 4, 5, 6 points in a row.
Well, there's no way that a team can be consistently siding out all the time. I mean, much as we would like for that to happen. And so when we depend upon that, and then we make a series of serving errors, it puts all that pressure back on that side-out part. And then, of course, if that breaks down a little bit, then you're going to be behind that rally score game and never have an opportunity to come back and win.
I think probably to sum up last weekend, we had 3 conference matches. We were only, 1-1 in the conference?
Correct.
And so we needed to establish our position on top of the conference again.
Well, I don't think there's any. I mean, that's certainly a factor. And after Loyola had beaten Ohio State at Loyola, and then we go to Loyola right
and
after.
Quincy had beaten Loyola.
Right. So that's all that triangle, that mix-up. And for us to go into Loyola and really make a statement winning 3-0, even though it was a good match. But when you win good matches, I think sometimes you make more of a statement in regards to our ability to compete not only with that team but with Ohio State, et cetera. And then having to go to play Clark and then down to Quincy. And as you mentioned, Quincy had beaten Loyola before, and Quincy kind of thought they were going to be really good. And they are a good team, but we went in there and really put the hammer on them right from the very beginning. If we wouldn't have that letdown in Game 3, I'd really be happy about the weekend in regards to the way we played and our mental approach to going into that 3-match trip, in 3 days in a row.
Well, Quincy certainly much improved, and in fact, we're undefeated before we came in, I believe.
Well, that's right. And once again, they beat Loyola at Loyola. So I mean, that's a great boost for that program. But for us to be able to go in on the road and do what we did, now knowing we got all those teams back at home, is certainly a step not only in the right direction, but a step for our confidence as well.
And we have the next 3 weekends at home with 3 conference matches plus a midweek match up at Lewis. So we've got 4 more right in a row here before we go out to Long Beach to play in that tournament.
Yeah, well, I think we have 16 matches left in the regular season, and 12 of them are at home. So
that's good.
It's time to stay home for a while.
It's time to stay home. And we hope you all stay home and keep tuned into Channel 6, because when we come back, Chris Gislin will join me, and we'll talk a little bit to him. So thank you for staying this long, and please stick it out for another 20 minutes or so. You'll have lots of fun.
It was called the greatest generation any society has ever produced. They were ordinary people who half a century ago did nothing less than help save the world. Millions served in uniform, millions more served at home, and nearly 500,000 gave their lives. And yet there is no national memorial to honor their sacrifice. It is time to say thank you.
Call now and help build the National World War II Memorial.
Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. And the segment we have is our guest, Chris Gislin, senior setter for the team, been with us 4 years, and he comes from Red Wing, Minnesota. Your mother told me never again was I allowed to say you're from Redneck, Minnesota. And I figured I better listen to her. Do you listen to your mother? She tells you what to do?
Yeah.
You do too. So it's good advice for me to listen as well.
Yeah, she still pays the rent, so.
Well, would she be willing to pay my rent if I do what she tells me?
Maybe. It depends. It all depends.
All depends. Well, of course, your mom and dad were able to pick up a couple of the matches this weekend in Chicago and in Dubuque, Iowa, because it's fairly close to southeastern Minnesota.
Yeah, I'm sure they're about as tired as all of us are. My mom was on the flight to Hawaii and then driving down to where were we? Quincy in Illinois this weekend. She's probably tuckered out just like we all are.
Oh, did they go to Quincy? I didn't see them there.
Or not Quincy, but Clark, which is in Iowa. So.
And they didn't offer, though, to drive to Penn State, did they?
No. They thought about it, I think. But
I don't think they thought about it for long.
No.
We talked last segment, you heard it sitting in the studio here, about we've been on the road a long time, players are tired, and we in Loyola, which is kind of like playing in a zoo, that alumni gym, which is small and confined, and the students are standing right behind you when you serve, talking to you the whole time, and then at Quincy, when it's obvious that the fatigue set in and everybody was just completely out of gas, to come from behind, win those games so as to make sure the match is won and it doesn't become a 5-game war, which usually the visiting tired team tends to lose. So it showed a lot of character. It showed a lot. Probably you 4 seniors were able to provide some leadership there.
Yeah, it was good for us. We were talking about how we needed to maintain our level of play, and that's what we talked about on the court, is that if we can keep siding out and not allowing them to run off points on our side of the court when we're not siding out, that's what would keep us in trouble, is when they would get their points in a row, because we'd have trouble siding out, because we have a good serve when we keep it in, and we set up a really big block, and that's how we score all of our points. And it's just the fact that we needed to make sure we kept siding out when they were bringing their serve, and that showed a lot of, I think, character for us. And we were at Loyola, and also we were at Quincy. There was times where it was just side out after side out after side out, and we sided out on every play. Like the game we won 15-0, that shows that we had 15 side outs right away, and then just scored points. So I think that was real good for our confidence in our side out game.
We've always been, historically at Fort Wayne, been known as a side-out team, and the last several years at least a good serving team. There are a couple areas where I know the coaches are trying to work with the team to be a little stronger. For instance, Coach Johnson has been talking to you about being strong at the net and winning the joust at the net when the ball's on top, and it's basically a free shot for either side. At Loyola, we didn't do a very good job of that, did we?
Yeah, that's just where you need to kind of take pride in yourself. And we work so hard in the weight room. 3 times a week we're in the weight room lifting, or 4 times now. And it's just, that's when the ball's up on top, and you have to go after it. And you got to have the intensity and the desire to get after it yourself. And it's just kind of a letdown when, if you're right up on top and you guys are both pushing at it at the same time and it comes down on your side. You know, I don't know if you feel weak or what it is, but it's just one of those things where it's kind of an insult to lose a joust. And that's one thing that Denny really gets us fired up on, is that's one thing that you don't lose. So.
Yeah, and I have to sit next to him on the bench, and believe me, when you lose one of those, I pay for it. I don't know what happens to you next Monday in practice, but I pay for it that night.
Yeah, we try not to.
He's
and
a little excitable.
Yeah, that's one thing that really gets me. Like, I get up in arms about that, is if I lose a joust. God, there's no worse thing than you get hit in the face with the ball on a spike. You know, you can shake that off. It's no big deal. It's like, you know, whatever. But when you lose a joust, it's one of those things where, man, I wish I had another chance, and you hardly ever get another chance. So it's just one of those things that you got to take them when you can get them. Another
problem we had over the weekend, and this occurred late in the weekend at Quincy, when our transition offense really broke down, especially in that third game. And one of the ways you score a point, obviously, you talk about our big block. The block doesn't always necessarily block the ball down and score a point, but it does get the ball, get a touch, get the ball up in the air so we can run it down and then run offense. And that time when you run the offense, you get a point, not just a side out. Yeah, we struggled with that at Quincy.
Yeah, that's mostly our communication, is that when we see the balls coming over as a free ball, or that we dig the ball up, it's everybody they need to get in touch with me and just let me know what play they're going to be running, and I gotta somehow interpret all this information coming in and make the right choice. And I like to think normally I've been pretty good about doing that, but this weekend there's a couple times where it broke down, and it cost us the opportunity for a point, and we'd have to give the other team a free ball, or we'd have to just get the ball over and not get a point out of the deal, when we should be getting points off of that probably 90% of the time. So
the way plays are called in volleyball is probably unusual. People think in terms of the football model, where you have a huddle and everybody says, okay, this is what we're going to do. To some extent, on serve receive, you're able to do it through hand signals. You signal what play you want everybody to run, and so they can do that. But on transition, it's the opposite of that, isn't it? The players tell you where they're going, and you have to put that together in your mind and then decide what to do.
Yeah, it's good to have those choices, and I'm really excited that I have the opportunity to do that, and have the opportunity to kick the ball back to Scotty or out to Hector and just watch him put it down. But it's those times when you hear something at the last second, or we've had a game plan that we have in our heads or that we've been talking about in the beginning, and something happens where either I forget it or I set in front of their big blocker, and it's just one of those things where it's just a breakdown, and it probably happens maybe 3 or 4 times in a match at the most, and that's 3 or 4 times too many, hopefully, but it's just one of those things that we need to take care of, and you know, coaches remind me about where the blockers are and everything and what we need to do, and it's mostly it needs to be taken care of out on the court. And after that play, I'll go up and I'll talk to, say, Jeff or Josh or whoever it is, and I'll let them know where I thought they were going and what I thought was going to happen. So
it's one thing to have a set play, for instance, when the pass is good or the dig is right to target, but when it's off the net or to one side or the other, the play has to change somewhat. The players have to adapt, and each player has to adapt to the other players so that the overall pattern in terms of attacking the net from all points remains.
Yeah, I think we've been really good at that, especially this year as opposed to last year, was that we've been playing together. We have 5 or 6 starters back, and it's just if the pass is off, we instantly adjust. Like, I'll be able to get to the ball, and then instead of it maybe coming around for an X2, the guy will go, like Jeff will go for a 5 or something, and then Hector will come out of the pipe. It's just stuff that we work hard in practice to recognize, because we do a lot of drills where it's coach puts us in transition situations, and we just have to figure out what needs to get the job done. And we've been pretty good about it this year. You know, those couple breakdowns that we have, but we'll work on those.
One of the things of a well-planned offense is to make the blockers move, so that they have to wait, what we call read the set, see where you're going with it, and then they have to move with it because they can't really be sure. You need a lot of options. You need some misdirection. You need some combinations where 2 players come to the same point. All those things help confuse the blocking.
That's the best thing is, especially for me, being a setter, when I'm up and I either jump set or I hear the middle blocker and he says, like, oh, darn, or whatever it is that he would say.
Yeah,
and
darn,
then
or whatever they say in the locality we're in, right?
Yeah, and I see, like, Hector out on the outside with one-on-one or nobody blocking, or I see Jeff coming around at X2 and there's nobody up. And that's just the type of thing that's my rush on the floor. Like, everybody gets the big kill and they get to walk around beating their chest. I like to think that, you know, I set that up, and like I was kind of like to think I'm the intellectual part behind it, but I get all my stuff from the bench, so with the board. So
well, there you have it. We now know who the brains of the IPFW coaching staff really is.
We also know who has the meal money. So.
Who has? We've only got about a minute left, and Chris, this may be the last opportunity you get to be on the show, and so I want to talk a little bit about you and where you're going. Your major is communications, and you're how close to graduating?
I have 2 semesters left after this one.
Okay, so you're on a 5-year plan, which is pretty typical for IPFW students, but especially for athletes who have to put in a full-time effort at their athletics.
Try to get some summer school in the summer, and then finish up halfway. So.
And then what do you plan to do after that?
Hopefully wherever volleyball will take me. I'd like to play for the national team or maybe play overseas someplace, but I just need to get through this year first. So
you're hoping to have a professional career in volleyball, and then after volleyball, what do you plan to do?
Well, hopefully settle down and have a family someday. But
maybe have a job?
Well, that comes with the family, I guess. So.
Well, we all know that, don't we?
Yeah.
That's senior setter Chris Gislin from Red Wing, Minnesota. Chris has been with us 4 years, and we've certainly enjoyed talking to him. So when we come back, Arnie will rejoin me, and we'll look forward to the Mercyhurst match. Please stay with us.
Brian's a student that I had in my resource class. Came from a very poor background. Brian just needed a friend, so we paired him with a community leader. He would take him to rodeos, and then he would take him to plays and different things that this child would never have been exposed to. This man taking his time to come and have lunch with him meant more than anything.
Point a kid in the right direction. This is General Colin Powell of America's Promise. Call us and help keep America's Promise.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Arnie, we've got a crop of 4 seniors this year, and that's a lot for 1 year. And we've had these guys with us a long time, and the team develops kind of a personality around them. Like in Chris's case, it has that easygoing sense of humor that's can crack you up just about any time. And you know, some of the others, we'll miss them, won't we? your wife wants to adopt Scotty Lane and Mike Cummings and his dry wit.
And Hector and all these multicolored hair.
Hector just trying to figure out what color his hair is from week to week has certainly been a challenge for the coaching staff.
So we're going to miss him, is that what you said?
Well, we're going to miss him, I think so. But not for 2 more months, 2.5 more months.
I would agree with that. This group has been not only a challenge, but done very well. We're very fortunate to have these four seniors on our team, and obviously the results of their play and our success has been directly related to those 4 kids. And they're each one individual, certainly a different kind of personality, but have worked really hard to blend together. And I think maybe are as close right now as they've been since they've been here.
Well, when they came in, we were probably at a low point in the program. In fact, we even had a losing record somewhere in there, which we hadn't had in 15 years or something. We weren't competing for the conference championship. Obviously, that meant we weren't competing for a national championship, and they've turned that around.
Well, certainly, when Mike and Chris and Hector came, it was a great recruiting year for us, and then, of course, Scotty being added to that last year, just added to that particular class. As a matter of fact, we don't have any juniors on the team, so that's kind of a scary situation. So we go from 4 seniors who've started most of their career to no seniors next year. So that'll be something we'll have to adjust to. But as you said, we got 2 months to go with these kids yet, and it seems like, and I'm sure it seems like for them as it does for us, that it's been 6 months that we've been playing, and we've only been playing really a month. Just seems like it's been a long season already.
We have Mercyhurst coming in on Saturday night, have Friday night off, which we kind of joked about the bad scheduling where we had those 4 road trips early, but now we have 3 weekends in a row where we play only once on that weekend, and then we have the 1 midweek match. So the 3 matches in 4 weeks is not really a tough schedule. 3 of those 4 at home.
Well, when you try and put a schedule together, everybody says, why do you play so much on the road in the beginning and so much at home at the end? Well, part of that's dictated by basketball, and just not our basketball, but other teams' basketball as well, as we share the arena. Like I was talking to Joe Walton today, and he was telling me that for next year, the MAC conference is not going to announce their basketball schedule until late in the summer. Well, trying to do scheduling makes it very, very difficult. So sometimes it's just a matter of how everything fits in facility-wise. And, of course, our trip to Hawaii, which is something we've not done in the past, this was an additional weekend away from home. But now I think we have 16 matches left, and 12 of them are at home. So we'll get some quality gym time, quality practice time, and we'll be able to not only rest a little bit, but actually do some training of some things that we need to work on that we've identified over this month.
We have Mercyhurst coming in on Saturday night, and you all have to come to the gym for that one because that one will not be televised here on Channel 56. But Mercyhurst is a fairly new program. They've been continually improving. We've usually struggled with them over in Erie, maybe because of the long drive or whatever. But this year, 2 weeks ago, we actually won that in 3, and that may have been the first time we beat them in their place in 3.
Well, I think that's right, and they've got some senior kids too, and they're not as big as us. I think that's one thing that hurts them against our team. But they're very athletic. I mean, they got 2 or 3 kids that can just really wail on the ball and stick the ball, and they play good defense. They're kind of like a Quincy was, last Sunday. They dig a lot of balls. They're an emotional team because they know that's the only way they can really compete at a high level with a team like ours that's so much bigger. So what we have to guard against is the fact that we've gotten all this road thing out of the way. We've given the kids a couple days off here, which they well deserve, but that we don't become lackadaisical and take them for granted because we beat them over their place in 3. Once again, it's a real important conference match. They beat Ball State earlier in the year, so they're just like Quincy, who beat Loyola. Everybody's capable of beating somebody. You can't let your guard down.
Yeah, and especially after you come back from a long road trip like that, just the human nature tends to say, take a breather now, and you could get ambushed by a team like Mercyhurst.
Well, and that's why we gave them a couple of days off, and then we get back in the gym on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and we'll bump the tempo up real quick to try and remind them that indeed this match is important. It's not something that they've been on vacation to, and that they can just kind of lollygag through it.
What are you going to work on in particular this week in practice?
Defense in particular, and blocking, footwork, hands over the top. We're not getting squared up. We're blocking too many balls out of bounds instead of back into the court. But we really got to work on our backcourt defense and some more consistency in serving. At times against Loyola and Quincy both, when we're serving really well, we're really, really good. And so we've got to get Jeff and Chris in particular a little more consistent with their serve. Hector and Scotty are pretty well zeroed in right now.
So you're really going to focus on technical things the next week or two?
Yep. As a matter of fact, just a week and a half ago, we really changed the focus of our practice on the more technical things, more so than we had done in the past.
Well, I guess that'll be a welcome change, maybe.
We'll be ready. Kids are ready. We're really focused.
They're looking forward to playing at home, aren't they? In front of their own friends and their
Yep. I really wouldn't want to remember Mercyhurst, to be honest with you. But I think our kids will be ready.
Good. Then come out to the gym on Saturday night, 7 o'clock, Gates Center. Not on TV this time. So for Arnie Ball, I'm your host, Mark Franke, and for our sponsors, Fujifilm and Synergy Energy, thanks for watching. So long. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. Today we're going to preview our conference match on Friday night against Ball State. Our guest is middle hitter freshman Angel Ruiz. And when we come back, Arnie and I are going to talk a little bit about last Saturday night's win against Mercyhurst. So please stay with us.
When you mentor a child, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. Do good. Mentor a child. Call 1-877-BE-A-MENTOR.
Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and once again, our sponsors are Synergy Energy, which is a consortium of area REMCs, and Fujifilm. Arnie, I understand you were criticized for last week's show because they didn't think you looked very good. Thought that you had not dressed up well enough for the show, that you looked kind of, well, like a bum, I think was what I heard Saturday night.
I can't do any better than what I am, Mark. I mean, this is it. This is all you get. There is no more.
That's all I get. Well, I guess if you can't dazzle them with your appearance, you just have to dazzle them with your brilliance, right?
You know, I think I've retained my suntan from Hawaii really well. My color looks really good. I don't want more. I don't know what more they want, huh?
I don't know. I guess Channel 56 must have gotten a lot of letters or something complaining about it.
Son of a gun. We win a few matches in a row. Now everybody wants to critique the way I look. Yeah, everybody's on me.
By the way, this is 6 in a row, all of which were 3-0, although it looked a little dicey in Game 1 last Saturday night.
I don't know. I was pretty calm.
Yeah, you were calm. Game 3, I think, is where you looked like you might lose your cool.
Is Game 3 the one that got the medical bag? The medical bag got moved a little bit. Is that the one that happened?
That was probably that one. I know when Coach Johnson was suggesting certain substitutions, you didn't seem too interested in discussing it.
Well, he's clear down on the end, and I can't hear where the darn anymore. He mumbles all the time, so I don't have any idea what he's saying. I get frustrated.
Mercyhurst came in obviously intending to come out strong, win Game 1, and then see what happened from there. And we finally won, I think, at 15-12. But it was pretty close there at the end, wasn't it?
You know, people said that we homered Mercyhurst. The only thing I had in response to that, Chancellor told me that, after the game Saturday night. He said, did coach feel like he got homered? I said, hey, Chancellor Wartell, look at my pockets. I pulled my pocket out and there was no money. I said, what do you think? Did he get homered or not, huh? I had to pay the guy off so we could win that first game, keep the streak alive.
I think the controversial call was at 14-12 when Scotty missed a ball that kind of deflected towards him in the back row there, and no touch was called by any of the 4 officials. None of them saw the touch at the net, and our trainer, Mike Gale, had to spend the entire time between games 1 and 3 taping up Chris Gislin's thumb because he just about broke it on that block.
Let's see, were we ahead 14-12?
14-12.
See, but we're ahead, so it didn't make any difference.
I know, it didn't make
matter.
a difference.
It was no big deal.
But it sure took them out of their game because they spent most of the next 2 games complaining about officiating, jawing under the net with our team. And one thing about this team, I think, where we're better than last year's, maybe any previous team, is that when the other team starts to trash talking under the net, this team responds in a very positive way.
I tell you what, these people we play got no thinking. You know, they don't think very good. They try to yap with their mouth, and when they do, I mean, Scotty goes back there and goes, okay, we'll put an end to this crap. And then in Hector, you know, the match started, and our game plan was to establish middle. You know, we've really been just the opposite all year long. We're going to establish the outside and go back to the middle. So we said, we'll establish middle. And as soon as I say that in the locker room, I can see Soto's eyes just kind of go, oh, yeah, okay. That means I'm not going to get set for about the first half of the first game, so he goes on cruise control. And you could tell right away, you know, when that match started, I mean, you look at him, he's just kind of passing half and jumping and doing this kind of thing. And because the News Sentinel will come out and they want to do a feature on the way he jumps, well, they're coming back this week because they didn't think Hector was jumping high enough. You know, and they're right, you know, because he's on cruise. And we did really a nice job of that because, you know, our middles in the first 2 games, first game and a half, were like hitting 800. I think Mike was hitting 800. Angel's hitting 700 or 650, and we're doing a good job. And then all of a sudden, Mercyhurst decides to talk trash, and they start talking trash to Scotty and Hector. And next thing you know, Hector's jumping a little bit higher, and a little bit higher, and I don't know why teams do that to our team.
John back in the control booth just said, I can't believe they did it either. They ought to know better than that. I mean, it's just so obvious that this team responds. You've got Scotty, who's used to that California mentality where they talk trash all the time when they're playing. Hector, of course, in Puerto Rico, that's all. They almost come to blows during the match. They're so intense down there.
I mean, you know, it happened at Loyola, happened over at Quincy, and then it happens here the other night. So I'm going to kind of egg Ball State on Saturday night, Friday night, and ask them to talk a little trash.
I think if we start to struggle Friday night against Ball State, maybe we ought to start talking trash to our players and see if it works. Or that's kind of your coaching philosophy anyways, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. I was told just this week, matter of fact, just today, that when Mercyhurst called the first time out, because I didn't call any of that first game, and I stayed on the chair and didn't get up, that they knew the players were in trouble. So what does that mean? I mean, if I yell at them, they're in trouble. If I sit still, they're in trouble.
Well,
they're always in trouble.
As someone who's been observing this now for an awful lot of years, you know, it's kind of like the spectrum of heat. You know, as the heat changes color, you know it's getting hotter. When you don't even get up and talk, it means you're at one end of the scale or the other. Either you don't care, it's under control, you figure they don't need to hear from you, or you are so mad, you're worried that if you get up, you're gonna say something even you would regret, and that's quite a stretch.
I tell you, they can't win for. I'm not sure what we should do to motivate these kids other than let the other team trash talk.
Yeah,
I think that's
the other team do the motivation. Well, I don't know. When Coach Schmidlin told him the story on the bus when we were watching the movie Rudy about how when he played at Michigan State, he kept saying the whole movie, I hate Notre Dame, I hate Notre Dame. Of course, Dave played for Michigan State's football program, and near the end of the movie, he told him, I caught a touchdown pass against Notre Dame. And so that kind of motivated him that trip, didn't it?
You thought that got him inspired?
Got him inspired.
Let's see. Did we win that weekend? Yeah, we did.
We won.
So
We sure did.
Maybe we ought to let Coach Schmidlin do all that from now on.
Yep. Although, when he told out in Hawaii about how he had the steel plate in his head, I think they finally figured out that was a big lie. So I don't know about the touchdown pass at Notre Dame.
Well, hey, really a nice effort by our kids, considering we came out pretty flat, I thought, in the first game. Once again, history of this team a little bit. We just kind of come out on cruise and then get better as it goes along. But there were some adversity in that first game, not only from the refereeing standpoint, because there was obviously some calls that weren't made or were made. As I went back and looked at the tape, there was also a call made on Hector for being in the net, of which he was not. In a normal or the old circumstances, Hector would have kind of gone off the deep end and shanked every ball for the next 5 minutes, and that didn't happen. And of course, the same thing was true with Chris when he got hit with that no touch call. Jammed his thumb. We had to tape his thumb all up, and Chris really came back, I thought, and played a pretty good match considering that injury. So from that standpoint, I'm pretty pleased with what we got done. Also, the fact that Panos came in, or excuse me, Aris came in and played for Jeff the last what, a game and a third, and really did a nice job. Was a real nice plus for our team.
And that was a nice plus to have Aris come off the bench and contribute, because that's where we've had problems when Jeff and Hector have struggled. You've really not had anybody send in.
We've not had that. That's really a plus, I think, for our team depth-wise.
Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Chris's injury in the last segment, but when we come back, Angel Ruiz, who our guest was, Angel Ruiz, will join me, and we'll talk a little bit to him about his first season here at IPFW. Please stay with us.
It was called the greatest generation any society has ever produced. They were ordinary people who half a century ago did nothing less than help save the world. Millions served in uniform, millions more served at home, and nearly 500,000 gave their lives. And yet there is no national memorial to honor their sacrifice. It is time to say thank you.
Call now and help build the National World War II Memorial.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. My guest this week is freshman middle hitter Angel Ruiz from Puerto Rico. Angel joined the team this year and has moved into a starting role to play in Ryan Perot's spot. And that's certainly got to be a set of big shoes to fill, not only literally but also figuratively, in that Ryan was a very potent offensive player for us, and last year before the Librero, he was also, I think, probably our best defensive player. So, but you're able to come in with a group of seniors out there, some experienced players, and that certainly has to help you adapt, doesn't it?
Yeah. All the seniors have helped me a lot in this season, like to adapt myself in the team and be able to help the team to win this couple games and do a good job in the middle.
What did you play back home? Did you play Superior League?
Yeah. I got 2 seasons experience.
The Superior League in Puerto Rico is kind of a semi-pro league, I guess would be the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
The top high school, college, and even ex-college players play in this, and each city has their own team, and it's very competitive. Gets a little emotional at times.
Yeah.
Who did you play for?
Jalco, and last year I was traded to another team, Guayanilla.
So you've already been traded?
Yeah, yeah.
That's right. Didn't you have a no-cut or no-trade clause in your contract?
No.
It's not quite like the big leagues, is it?
No.
Where's your hometown?
Cabo Rojo.
And where is that? I've never been there.
It's in the west side of Puerto Rico. Yeah, right on the coast, beside the beach, actually.
Beside the beach. Yeah. I think the farthest west we've ever gone, we played in San Sebastian one year, which is up in the mountains, kind of northwest, right?
Yeah, kind of windy over there.
But you're way down near Mike West?
Yeah.
Are you near Mike West?
Southwest.
Okay. So you played Superior League. How did you find out about IPFW, or how did Coach Ball find out about you?
I got a friend back home, Norman Almodovar. He was an All-American here, and I was talking to him about coming here. And he talked to Coach about it, and that's how I got here.
You probably ran into Norman when you were playing for Yalco, because that's his hometown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I met him.
Oh, was he playing for Yalco?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was a teammate with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Norman played back in the early 90s. Was quite a player.
Yes, he is.
Were you primarily a middle back home?
Middle blocker in Jalco. Then opposite player in Guayanilla.
So you came up here and were immediately put into the middle position, right?
Yeah.
What's the biggest change you can see in the type of game that's played compared to, let's say, Superior League in Puerto Rico to NCAA here in the States?
The height. All the
height of the players?
Yeah. 6'5", almost every team. The average, the training. And it's a long season, actually, for me. Like 25, 30 games, something like that. Back home it's like 15, so it's like 2 months playing.
Oh, okay. And that occurs, what, during the summer, doesn't it?
Yeah, from May to July.
And so here you've got a 4-month season. We had a 6-week preseason training period during the fall, and we play for 4 months. We're only about halfway through, too, so you got a ways to go yet. In terms of the physical conditioning, what does that mean? How much more do you have to physically train to keep your stamina up and your strength?
A lot more, because the players here are bigger and stronger than back home. And to be able to do the job in the middle is a hard position, actually, for me and for every guy in the team to play that. So it's kind of hard. And
we played against some teams with some really good middles, and you've had to go up and try to block, like the UCLA middles and the Hawaii middles and so forth. Have you started adapting more to the offensive tempo as well as the types of sets in the States?
Yeah, because here it's more faster in the middle and outsides. So it was hard for me in the beginning, but now I'm kind of adapting myself to block and go to the corners fast enough.
You need to move laterally along the net quicker to get out to the pins, right? And in the middle, what do you have to do to block?
Keep my hands high.
And over the net, right?
Yeah. So, and be able to see where the setter's going. Try to be able to, how do I say it?
Read?
Yeah, read the play before the setter.
Yeah, it's what we call read blocking, where you watch the set and then follow the ball, basically, or try to anticipate and get there before it reaches the hitter.
Mm-hmm.
And the other type of block, we might as well talk a little bit about that, is what we call commit blocking. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is? Because I know there have been times when you've been told to commit.
Yeah, against Ohio State, that they have 2 good middle blockers. So I got to commit. It's jumping in the middle every time. So they kind of be able to stop them a little bit or a lot. So the corners got to be one-on-one, and the defense stabilize and be able to dig the ball.
So you basically assume the middle's going to get set and jump with him. It's maybe an analogy would be that it's like man-to-man defense in basketball, as opposed to read is more like a zone defense where you follow the ball along.
Yeah.
So, and the commit is used primarily when we're up against strong, quick middles who get set a lot, right?
Yeah.
They're especially tall ones, like Colin McMillan at Ohio State's very, very tall, 6'9", probably, 6'10", something like that.
6'10".
Yeah. And Rene
Estevez
is very quick, very
quick.
strong, too.
Quick arm. Move the ball a lot.
Offensively, let's talk a little bit about that. Coach Ball said in the first segment that this year we've really not set the middle as much as we have in the past. We've always been strong the last several years on the outside on the pins, but last year we still had a fairly strong middle attack. At least we always hit for high percentage in the middle, and we've gotten away from that this year. But he said we started off focusing on the middle attack Saturday night against Mercyhurst, and in fact we're hitting for high percentage.
Yeah, in the beginning of the season I'm like struggling a little bit, like not putting the ball away, but trying to do my job in the blocking and defense and serving. But right now I think I'm stabilizing myself and hitting the ball better, because Coach have advised me about it, and in practice I've been working hard for it.
A lot of it is to get the timing down between you and Chris, because it is what we call a quick attack, which means there's not much room for error.
Yeah, and Chris is a tall guy, and back home all the setters are like 6 feet, 5'11", so that's kind of difference.
One of the things that I know Coach Johnson has talked to you about is hitting the ball at an angle. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, because all the time I hitting the ball straight to the block. I'm not hitting the ball at angles, like cutting the ball inside or outside. And that's what I've been working this couple of weeks in practice.
And obviously if the blocker's it right in front of you, if you hit it straight away, you're going to hit it right into him. It's probably coming right back at you.
Yeah, right back, or they dig the ball in.
Yeah, but if you hit on an angle, you either catch his elbow or something, which should be a kill, or you get it past him, and in which case you still have a high percentage chance of getting a kill, don't you?
Yeah.
And conversely, then, when you're blocking, you have to think just the opposite. If you're up against a middle like the one Mercyhurst middle who always cut the ball back across his body, you position yourself slightly differently, don't you?
Yeah, try to move my hands and read where he's going to hit the ball so I can catch him or touch the ball, and the defense can make the play, and the outside hitters kill the ball and had the point.
You said earlier that one of the things you're working on is your serving, because obviously you found that we have a team that is really led and inspired by its serving. We're one of the best serving teams in the country, and so you've been working to fit in. You're also a jump server like the others, but you also have to work on, as the others do, to keep your error rate down, don't you?
I've been trying to have less errors in my serve. It's not that hard my serve, but I think I can locate it in position that the other team cannot be able to play the three middle and outsides.
And you're typically serving between Hector and Chris, who both hit it very, very hard. And so by you having good control, you may not hit it as hard, but the passers are still trying to adapt to you compared to the two around you.
The passers think that I'm going to hit it hard like them, and they kind of struggle in that.
Well, Angel, good luck in the rest of the season. In the next 3 years, we'll have you back, I'm sure, in future years, and we'll talk more about those things. When we come back, Arnie will be here again. We're going to talk about the Ball State match, which is an important conference match coming up this Friday night. Please stay with us.
What would you do if you had to choose between the buffalo and the giraffes? Between a flower or an elephant? What would you choose? What if you had to decide between a 100-year-old tree and a 1,000,000-year-old beach? Between drinking clean water or breathing clean air? Would you make the right choice? Would there be a right choice? Now there's a way to help. Not just one, but all these things. EarthShare, the world's leading environmental groups working together. It's one choice we can all live with. Ask your employer about workplace giving.
Well, Arnie, Angel did pretty well for his first interview. We thought he'd be nervous, and he did so well. I didn't even get to the one question I wanted to ask him. What's the deal with the hard hat he carries around everywhere he goes?
Before we get to that, I think I'm real proud of Angel. You know, he's really come in and adjusted pretty well. Angel's very athletic, and I think that once we get him attitudinally to figure out that he needs to use that all the time, he's going to really be a nice player. He's done some really nice things for us already. But I would like to ask the question of the day: why is Dan, the cameraman, hiding behind the curtain?
That's, I don't know. I think we probably just ought to go back to the question about the hard hat today.
Well, I think I ought to have a question of the day every day on this show, and that's my
question.
Well,
you had your
today,
question.
So
now we're going back to my question.
I want people to call in and inform us on why Dan, the cameraman, was hiding behind the curtain. Okay, now, I'll answer your question. What was it again?
Why does Angel carry a hard hat around all the time?
You mean that thing that has his name on it, that hat that has his name on it? It's because he goes to work every day. And in order to go to work every day, you have to have a hard hat.
So he gets to carry that around?
Every day.
Every day.
And you notice it goes on the road?
It goes on the road.
It is a symbol of our team going to work every day, and construction work, or anybody who's in any kind of business has to have a hard hat. So Angel carries his hard hat to
gets
work
to carry it
every day. That's probably some kind of harassment of some kind, but that's okay. I'm going to harass him anyhow. And it really is a symbol of us going to work every day.
Angel was kind of interesting when he came in. We had a discussion about what his name was, because his name is really translated as Archangel. And so his nickname, I think, back in Puerto Rico was Arky. You got it confused, thought it was Alky. Finally, Dave Schmidlin says, no, it's Angel. We're calling him Angel.
I like the Alky better.
And then after we figured that out, we realized that we had his last name wrong, that he has a typical, the Spanish habit or tradition where they combine mothers and fathers' names, but always go by the fathers, but we picked up the mother. So he was Angel Negron for a while, and now he's Angel Ruiz.
Yeah, I've always thought he was Alky Negron. I always thought that's who it was.
Yeah, that's right.
You guys call him whatever you want.
Friday night, Ball State. Ball State's certainly it's a big rivalry for us, but also Ball State's been an unusual team this year. They've had some major victories, lost some really incredible matches that we wouldn't think they should have lost. They seem to be real up and down.
I'm concerned about Ball State. Got a chance to watch them on tape this week. Still doing some evaluation kind of stuff off tape. Got some information from Penn State. Penn State beat them last weekend at the Golden Dome out there in wonderful downtown, where's it, Rutgers?
Newark.
Yeah. Newark, New
we
Jersey.
missed that again. Darn.
Son of a gun. Well, Ball State went and did their thing for Indiana. We're proud of them. But they're a big team. Other than the setter and the opposite, but the opposite leads them in kills, they go like 6'8", 6'9" in the middle. Left side, if Market plays, is 6'8" or 6'9". The other kid's 6'6". Fortunately, the setter's only 6 foot. But they're Heckle and Hyde. What's that word I'm trying to say?
Jekyll and Hyde.
Hyde. Yeah, I knew there was something I was trying to say.
Heckle and Jekyll.
Something like that, because they lost to Mercyhurst early in the year, but they've been playing better. You know, they beat Stanford, split with Northridge, and now Northridge has beaten UCLA. Ball State is a young team, but I think a team that we can't certainly take for granted.
No, and they need a win Friday night to get themselves back in the conference race, too.
That's correct, because they've lost 2 matches in the conference, one to Mercyhurst and what was the other one, to Loyola, I guess?
Ohio State.
Ohio State, that's right. Ohio State. Loyola, they beat Loyola down at their place.
Yeah. So, and they're, of course, always ready to play us. In fact, last year we were on that big winning streak, and we went down to Ball State and lost.
Yeah, we actually beat them very badly in the first game, if you remember. Then we ended up losing in 5, probably because of our serving errors and some other things. But this match will be no different than any other match we have with Ball State. It'll be a real strong rivalry kind of thing. You know, the Market kid we tried to recruit, and he went to Ball State. And obviously they're looking for a little bit of revenge. I believe last year here at home we beat them 15-9 one game.
Oh, no, we don't want to do that again. That caused us a problem at Quincy.
Well, it was the last game that we did that.
No, you can always do it for your third win of the night. Never do it for your second.
But I'm sure Joel hasn't forgotten that, nor have the players who were part of that. Of course, this is a new team, and it's a very young team. But I like some of the talent that Joel's put together on this team.
Well, we have a big weekend coming up here at the Gate Sports Center. Of course, we're on Friday night, and we'll be televised on Channel 56 at 7 o'clock. Come on out. If you can't make it, be sure and tune in at 7 o'clock. Ryan Parada, who we talked about in the last segment, he'll be doing the play-by-play, and I don't think they've lined up anybody to be with him yet, so maybe I'll take that job and let...
maybe I'll do it since never mind. We'll just go ahead and finish the show.
We'll figure it out. Plus, our Synergy Energy sponsor, Greg Keese from Northeastern RMC, of course, is an alum of IPFW. The head of the Noble County REMC, whose name I think is John English, if I remember right, is a Ball State alum, and he's already been talking trash to Greg about Friday night. So we're not playing just
I love trash talkers.
Yeah,
we're in good shape.
We got fans talking trash already.
It's a win for us if they start talking trash.
So we need to make sure we don't disappoint Greg as well as win the match. And then on Saturday at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock, it's the last home games for our basketball teams, and it will be senior day for both teams. So tune in on Friday night and Saturday. For Arnie Ball, Angel Ruiz, and our sponsors Synergy Energy and Fujifilm, this is Mark Franke saying thanks for watching and so long. Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. We have Dan Gebhardt on this week, who is the tournament chairman for the NCAA tournament coming up in May, and we're going to be talking to him. We're going to discuss our win over Ball State last weekend and look forward to our matches against Lewis and Ohio State, so please stay with us.
called the greatest generation any society has ever produced. They were ordinary people who half a century ago did nothing less than help save the world. Millions served in uniform, millions more served at home, and nearly 500,000 gave their lives. And yet there is no national memorial to honor their sacrifice. It is time to say thank you.
Call now and help build the National World War II Memorial.
Welcome to the Arnie Ball Show. I'm your host, Mark Franke, and our sponsors this week are Fujifilm and Touchstone Energy, a consortium of your local REMCs. And I have to apologize to the REMC folks because last week I got the name of their consortium wrong. I called it Synergy Energy, which is the new name for PSI, that big electrical company in Indianapolis. So Greg Keese, when I said he was connected with them, said, great, that means he probably gets a raise, so he's quite happy. Plus, he's given a lot of crap right now, I think, to his friend John English over in Noble County because John's a Ball State alum and he went away unhappy Saturday night. Friday night.
Are you done yet, or is it my turn?
Well, I was just waiting for you know, your eyes were glazed over and you were staring out into the dark there where Dan Gebhardt's sitting back in the shadows.
Well, I'm trying to live up to what everybody tells you, how bad I look on the tube. So
yeah, I have been getting a lot of complaints.
I'm trying to look really bad.
Why do you look bad on TV?
I don't know. I told you before the show started, I'm the only guy that's got a suntan, only guy that's got a nice fresh dew. I'm the best looking guy on the set. Hairdo, Mark. Hairdo.
I thought maybe you enlisted in the Marines. You got to cut awfully short this time, didn't you?
Yeah, well, you know, my barber got started and she just kept peeling it off.
Wow. I get a different barber.
Hmm?
Who's cutting your hair now? Got a family member?
It's a trade secret.
You got a family member because you're a tightwad and you don't want to pay, right?
In trouble.
Have you quit going to Rex?
I zip. Nobody get me in trouble here on the air.
I will ask. I will ask Mr. Lepper next time I show up at the old...
you may come out looking like me.
The old IPFW coaching staff's barbershop. We all go to the same barbershop, so I'm going to check into this. Ball State. You want to talk a little bit about Ball State?
The only thing that mattered was that we made Greg Keys happy. It's the only thing I cared about.
We did. He was quite happy.
Well, I didn't get a chance to see him afterwards. Was he there?
Yeah, he was there.
So as long as he's happy, the kids. I'm happy.
He said he's going to try to get a babysitter for this next weekend, so he doesn't have to go home right after the match.
You mean so he can go out and party with us?
That, I think, is the plan. He and Kay are planning to...
Partake of pizza?
Partake of whatever it is that we partake of.
Pizza. Yeah.
Yeah, pizza. Okay.
Yeah, Canterbury.
And with whatever we wash it down with.
Right. We... whatever you say, Mark. You're in charge. I just follow you around. You got the money.
Should we? We only have. We got 8 minutes in this segment, don't we?
I don't know.
We got 8 minutes, so we got time to talk about Ball State.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
What have you got to say?
We won.
We won.
You did really a great job.
We did.
I thought you were the key to winning.
Oh, jeez. I couldn't even remember the name of our sponsors last week. I don't think I contributed much mentally to it.
Maybe that's the reason you were the key.
I was the key?
You couldn't remember what was going on the other side, and so we played real good.
Oh, you're talking about because I had no voice and I couldn't yell out?
Yeah, poor Coach Johnson. He's got, from 7 seats down, he's got to yell at me going, you know, what's going on, because you can't talk.
I try to get him to yell out to the players who the front row hitters are, which I usually do, and he got confused. It took me a while to train him to do that, but then he wouldn't quit. You're only supposed to do it for the first couple of rotations. He just kept going.
He's not very trainable.
Well,
he's an old dog, so
we're going to work with that for the future.
But the key to the win was Laura.
Laura?
Mm-hmm. Laura, the guest coach that we had sat next to me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot about her.
She made me behave. I had to stay focused.
I did get a comment that said, why was Arnie not coaching? I said, what do you mean he was coaching? He said, no, not the way he's normally coaching when we're playing Ball State, so...
Only in game 2.
You did no kicking, no throwing, no swearing? Not a lot of swearing. No kicking or throwing.
We reverted back a little bit to game 2, but Laura kept me focused.
Well, that's right. I forgot about Laura. Yeah, she was between us, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was between us.
I appreciated that.
And my wife kept saying, but you kept going you kept turning away from Laura. I said, well, after game 1, it wasn't real pleasant to be around with Laura sitting right next to me.
We didn't play well in game 1, did we?
It was nice to have her there, though. I really appreciate her coming and being part of our staff. We might have her there all the time if we win.
We may need her against Ohio State Saturday.
That could be true.
So,
we didn't play good in game 1, did we?
No.
Why was that? Why did we not play well?
Well, I think that's more our tradition to start off slowly. What we've been doing lately, which has been kind of scary, is we start off strong and then get really tentative in game 3.
That didn't happen.
No, that didn't happen.
We couldn't pass and serve the ball in game 1.
Actually, we didn't do that a whole lot better even as the night went on.
We got a lot better in games 3 and 4. Games 3 and
Our
4
hitting percentage was way up as the night went on.
You know, we finally passed the ball a little better, and we were able to run some middle. Geez, Mike Cummings and Angel hit some thunder balls. I haven't seen that all year out of those two guys, or that position. And I thought that really helped us open up the outsides.
We talked about that last week with Angel, but their middles still were set substantially more than ours were, weren't they?
Yeah, I think that little setter was trying to push their middles, thinking that he could take advantage of our middles, and they weren't very successful. Their timing was, I thought, off, and especially in games 3 and 4, you know, where we beat them pretty easily.
He was really forcing it.
Yep. And it was a call you kept making, and we just, matter of fact, we had Angel committing in the middle, if you remember, and we touched a lot of balls. Going back and looking at the tape, the kids and I looked at it yesterday, and I've looked at it 4 or 5 times, and we touched a lot of balls on the block, and after we touched them, we made really good transition passes, and we were able to do some nice things. So that's as good as we've played transitionally in games 3 and 4 all year.
I think we had 3 transition opportunities for game point in 3. We didn't get them, but we were transitioning the ball, and that's the big difference for us.
Once again, if you go back and look at the tape, we had 2 plays. One where Jeff Patak dug a real hard driven ball, and Hector jumped up and killed the second ball. I mean, those are just outstanding volleyball athletic plays. And the same thing happened with Chris Gislin, one of those little tip balls. He dug out of the front row, and Jeff Patak jumped up and swung at it in the second ball. I mean, those are kind of things we haven't done all year, and I was real pleased with our blocking, touching balls, and we outblocked them 2-1, even terminating the ball. But we touched balls, dug balls in the back row, and we were able to turn it off in transition. That's stuff we've been working on, and it showed up finally.
Yeah, we finally hit for a real high percentage offensively. We've not always done that. In fact, we haven't done that very well.
Well, especially against Ball State, because they're notorious for playing defense, and we outblocked them, we outdug them. Our hitting percentage was higher. We had more aces. I think we should have won.
Yeah, and we did. It was actually the match wasn't even in doubt much after game 2, was it? We controlled it.
Well,
they would make runs on us, but then we'd settle down and.
No, after game 2, you're certainly right. Getting into the middle of the second game was back and forth, but once we got to the middle of the second game and we took I think a spurt right in there in the middle, I don't think there was a doubt about who was going to win.
And it's always nice to beat the in-state rival, especially in front of 2,000-plus fans, nearly all of whom were for us.
And the majority of them were for us.
That's
usually Ball State has a pretty significant crowd, and their crowd wasn't very big, but our crowd was large and really into it. Matter of fact, so into it, the umpire had to go over and tell our 3 guys with the hairdos to get back off the floor because you're interfering with play, and that's good. I like it when they interfere with play.
That's right. Eric had to go over there. And I asked him afterwards, I said, "You get a complaint from Ball State?" He says, No, they were starting to interfere with play, I thought, and I had to warn them.
It was great. The whole atmosphere was great, having all those people there, and so it was a fun thing to be part of.
And we'll have another fun night Saturday night when Ohio State comes in, won't we?
Yeah, I assume we're going to talk about that later.
We're going to talk about that later.
Okay.
When I return, Dan Gebhardt, who is chairman of the NCAA tournament committee, will join me. We'll talk about that a little bit, so please stay with us.
Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Sally's having some behavioral problems.
I guess that reward system isn't working.
Well, the timeouts weren't either.
Parents do find that timeouts aren't...
See?
Well, you're just too lenient.
Well, you're too strict.
No, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are.
No, you are.
When adults don't have the answers, they can feel as frustrated as kids. ConnectForKids.org has thousands of resources for helping kids in your community. ConnectForKids.org, guidance for grown-ups.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. We barely got this segment started. John was counting down from 10 in the control booth and got confused between 4 and 3. And it took us about 15 minutes to get that mic run up under your shirt there, Dan. You just about had to strip down to your skivvies to get that to work.
At least I got my shirt back on.
You got your shirt back on. We're having a heck of a day, aren't we?
We are.
Arnie was complaining about the last segment. He said when we taped that, it was about 5 minutes of BS and 3 minutes of substance, and I think that's a much better ratio than we normally put out on this
I'm just hoping my friends don't call you and say that I look like I was hungover today, so it's the middle of the workday. So.
Well, you spent the whole weekend working at the Bishop Dwenger
Saints Alive auction.
Saints Alive auction. Yeah. My ex-neighbor John Berghoff. John, you should have seen the toolbox that John.
I saw it. It rolls. It's got wheels.
It rolls, and it's full of tools.
It's full of tools.
It didn't come empty. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was great. I almost did a little five-finger discount on some of those when I was over there Saturday at his house.
He was going to bid on some paintbrushes, and I talked him out of that. So.
Yeah, you, Dan, in the past, I'm sure many people remember you as you were the business manager and associate athletic director. So you've been involved with IPFW athletics almost. Well, you probably were at the beginning when we went Division II.
Right after I came on board, right.
And so you've been asked to come back this year and be chairman of the NCAA tournament in May, which did you also serve in '88?
I served as the director in '88, and I was the assistant director in '94. So
you got demoted in '94.
I got demoted in '94.
Who was it?
Bob Barrett.
Oh, Bob Barrett came in. That's right. So they put you back in the big job this year, right?
Exactly. So.
And I understand that there have already been plenty of memos written and filed away that if anything goes wrong, it's your fault.
Financially responsible.
Financially responsible. Tell us a little bit about, let's start with ticket sales. I'm sure you have tickets left and how people can get those.
Yeah, there are tickets left. We had a pre-sale for all tournament sessions, and so far we have about 2,500 tickets sold or committed for all the sessions, and that's about a third of the seating capacity of the Coliseum. Tickets will go on sale on March the 1st at all Ticketmaster outlets. Those will be single session only. Ticket prices are $5, $6, and $7 for an individual session. We're pleased with that. It's down a little bit from '94, but I think the excitement in '94 was just tremendously high. In '88 was the first time we'd hosted, obviously. First time an NCAA tournament, to my knowledge, had been held in Fort Wayne. Any kind of tournament had been held in Fort Wayne. There was a lot of excitement, and we obviously didn't make that tournament. In '94, everybody had a feeling we were going to be there, and so there was just a tremendous amount of excitement being built. And I think that was also the year that UCLA came in here in early January, and we had a sold-out crowd in the gymnasium. And so that year we had about 4,000 pre-sold tickets. So we're down a little bit from '94, but I'm still real optimistic the way particularly we're playing now, and the big win over Ball State and Ohio State coming up, that the interest will be generated again.
So the ticket sales now are all being handled through the Coliseum box office and
Ticketmaster outlets, that's correct, yeah.
Okay. And the format this year is similar to last year, where the semifinals are played on Thursday night and then the finals on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, that's right. That's a change from what it was in '88 and '94, when actually it was Friday-Saturday night, excuse me. And there were actually 4 games, 2 each night. This year, they're just the 2 semifinals on Thursday and the finals on Saturday. Right now, the times scheduled are 5:30 and 8 on Thursday and 1 o'clock on Saturday. And that's dictated by ESPN2, which will broadcast those games. We're hoping actually to be able to move the Saturday game to a later time slot. But it's just dependent upon what ESPN's schedule turns out to be. So.
Well, last year when we played at UCLA, we were in the second match on Thursday night, and we ended up finishing about 2:30 our time in the morning, after a long match and getting started late and so forth. So we think to repay UCLA this year, if they're here, we're going to play at 6 in the morning.
Oh, that sounds
Eastern
fine
time.
To me. I also understand you want to send them in a hotel out by Auburn or something.
Well, no, we've already identified a little motor inn out on South 27 near Decatur. That's where they're going, because they put us in a hotel, had to be 30 minutes away from the campus. And so that was okay, but it was a long drive every time we went.
Well, this year we're hoping that we win the tournament, and real excited about the way things are shaping up right now. So,
well, obviously, for IPFW to get in, we have to win the Midwestern Regional Tournament, and right now in the MIVA season, we're playing for seeding in that, and then of course we have to win that tournament last weekend in April. And then immediately the next week then is the NCAAs, right?
Right. In fact, I think that's a change too. I think the MIVAs were always about a week prior to that, what they're being held this year. I don't know if that's a scheduling flaw or just happens to be that they've changed the tournament schedule, the MIVA tournament schedule. The other thing that was real frustrating to me in the past, Mark, is that it's been hard for a Midwestern in particular to follow the standings of all the other conferences. And so we've created a website dedicated specifically to the tournament, which is accessed through IPFW's athletic webpage. And Mike Jewell, the sports information director, is trying to keep that updated with all the conference standings, and it's interesting because it looks like there's an awful lot of parity in men's volleyball around the country this year. I think the only undefeated team in conference play at this point is Penn State, and we know that Penn State's been beaten by an awful lot of Midwestern and West Coast teams. So.
Twice last weekend by Loyola and Lewis.
Right. So the West Coast just appears to be beating each other up out there as they play, and as I think that's typical out there in the Mountain Pacific federations.
We've had a little bit of that happen here with Ohio State beating us right off, but we intend to not let that continue this
Well,
week.
I certainly hope you're intending not to let that happen. So.
To put together the organization for this, you probably have 100 volunteers or more, don't you?
You know, it's interesting that in '88 it was tremendous outpouring of volunteer support, and at that time we really needed all of that support because we didn't know what we were doing. And now I think we've done this this will be the third time, and so we're getting used to it, and it doesn't take nearly as many volunteers. But yes, we have about a volunteer staff of about 50. We have a committee of about 8 that are meeting every other week just to make sure that things are in order and that things are going to take place the way we expect them to happen. The NCAA actually takes kind of a hands-off approach to this. I mean, they have met with us, the whole committee, the whole men's volleyball committee has visited the site, and we've gone over all of the things that we've planned for them. But generally, it's all done by phone calls. We won't see them again until about 2 days before the tournament. And so it's basically in our hands. So you're right, it is a big effort on the part of our volunteers, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate their support and help in that regard.
Well, our boss, Phil Grody, has volunteered. He said he wanted to handle the drug testing. He carried the little cups into the...
Actually, I think I'm going to have him put the soft drinks and the fruit in the locker rooms. I think that's something he could probably handle.
He could probably handle
I'm
that?
not sure he can handle the drug testing part. So.
You said the NCAA pretty much leaves you on your own. Is that because we've done it twice before and they know we're experienced, or that's just the way they always do it?
I think that's their philosophy about tournaments, and I think obviously the more high-profile tournaments they probably have more active involvement in. But and I think the other thing is that they do respect the job we've done. I think there's an awful lot of things that I'm seeing that have become part of the process that were actually instituted by us. For example, in '94, maybe in '88, I can't remember which, we had actually put together a little tournament manual and sent out to all the teams that were under consideration. And we were the first to do that, and now everybody does that. Everybody that hosts sends that manual out. I like to call it the hospitality room rule. In '94, we had such an outpouring of the hospitality, the NCAA has actually put in a caveat that you have to have a hospitality room specifically for the NCAA and coaches so that they can get into that room, because in '94 they couldn't get in. So again, I think that they realize that we have some expertise here, and they've kind of given us that. But I think that that's generally their policy in tournaments, to be honest with you.
The event will be held at the Coliseum in the main arena, right?
That's correct.
The old part of it. That may or may won't be remodeled by then.
We're
still fighting that.
No, in fact, according to Randy Brown, the remodeling will start the day after we're done.
The day after we're done. Yeah. And let's see, the tickets available through Ticketmaster. That's really what everybody needs to know. Just keep the first Thursday, first Saturday in May on their calendar.
And it's my advice to get your tickets as quickly as you can. Obviously, we think there'll be tickets available all the way up to the time of the tournament, but the best seats are obviously going to go very quickly. In fact, floor sides and pretty much lower arena sides are going to be gone after we fill this first batch of ticket orders. And so, there are still many, many good tickets, particularly upper arena sides, that I think are very good and actually a little bit lower priced. But yeah, if you wait very long, I think you're going to be on the ends. Now, Arnie would argue that that's the best place to watch men's volleyball, but I think the general public typically likes to.
Our team would argue that's the best place they want him watching volleyball, far away from the bench as possible.
We could probably arrange that if you like. So.
The pre-sale tickets, you've not mailed those yet, right?
That's correct. We'll fill those ticket orders before March the 1st, and then we will put them in the mail sometime towards the end of March, first part of April, so that they'll be in people's hands about the first week of April, hopefully. And if there are any problems, then they can contact us, and we can still work those.
And contact you at home?
So, sure, if they'd like to. My number's in the book.
We ought to tell them again about the website. It's through the IPFW site. It's www.ipfw.edu/athletics, and then there's a link directly on the main athletics page, right?
To the men's volleyball championship, that's correct. It's got a long name, so I can't give that to you right off the top of my head. The other place to go is Ticketmaster has a website, www.ticketmaster.com. I don't know whether they actually have a seating arrangements of I think you can see the seating arrangement of the Coliseum, whether it hasn't updated what seats are available, but at least you can go there and look at the arena layout and those kind of things. So.
You're going to make sure that my ticket order gets handled.
Oh, you've got high priority, yeah. You're up
way
there,
up high?
You're up in the rafters, yeah.
Probably shouldn't admit that I bought tickets, because I'm not supposed to be needing seats.
Well, they're for friends, right?
Yeah, I bought them in case any of my kids come home or whatever. They hear the tickets are free, they might. The old man paid for the tickets, they'll show up. Anything, last comments? Get your ticket orders in, right, to Ticketmaster.
That's exactly right. We're looking forward to having a great tournament, and we expect to be there, and we'd certainly like to win and bring that crown to the Midwest. So.
And we'll put Arnie in charge of the win.
Well, I'm not sure you can do that, but...
That's right. Well, we are going to put Arnie in charge of coming back for the next segment, so please stay with us.
Every day, 10 children are killed by gunfire. You can help stop the violence. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
Gone to graveyards one by one. Oh, when will we ever learn?
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. We're going to talk about our matches this week. Ohio State on Saturday night, which will be televised here on Channel 56 at 7 p.m. And the Lewis match, which is Wednesday night. Now, you're probably either watching this, I think, on Wednesday night or Thursday night, but we're taping it on Tuesday. And so I'm going to put Arnie on the spot and ask him to predict how the Lewis match is going to come out. So when you see this and it's already over, you'll know how intelligent he really is. So what's your prediction, big guy?
What I really want to know is why on last Friday night there was this thing on the screen that said "Happy Birthday, Leslie Johnson," but it wasn't Leslie Johnson. It was the wrong person.
Oh, they zeroed in on who did they zero in on?
I don't know, some babe, but I don't know who it was. I wonder who screwed that up, John.
That was Bernie's fault.
I mean, the name was right, but the person was wrong. Anyhow, what was the question you asked?
Well, actually, Leslie Johnson being Coach Johnson's daughter, in that family, they're sensitive about a lot of things, probably birthdays as well as others.
This girl was a lot better looking than Leslie, so.
Oh, boy.
It was a great choice by whoever picked it out.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, I just picked somebody out. If you folks want to know what I do most of my time is I stay between Arnie and everybody he pisses off. So,
okay, where are we going? Who
I will not let Leslie or father, mother, even her brother Chris will probably get mad at you for that statement.
Oh, I can handle Chris.
You can handle Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Leslie.
Lewis, you were supposed to give us a prediction.
3-1.
3-1. Mm-hmm. Who's going to win?
Either Lewis or us. One of those two teams will win.
Okay, you heard it here first, folks.
But I'm hoping it'll be 3-0, but I think it'll be 3-1, just because we got to go up there. It's the middle of the week and all that kind of stuff. Lewis is a pretty good team, but we're better.
Yeah, well, we took care of them last year up there in the tournament, didn't we? They weren't expecting us to manhandle them like we did.
Well, certainly, with Victor Rivera no longer being there, thank God. I think he was there like 7 years. It seemed like anyhow. They don't have anybody that's a star per se. Keona's kid's pretty good, but Vila in the middle is pretty good. They've been playing a revolving door with some of their players. I talked to Coach Hansen today, as a matter of fact, and he's like the same way. We're not sure which players are going to play. They're just not as athletic as they have been in the past, but yet they're a good team. They're 4-2 in the conference, and they've beaten some good teams. They've spanked Penn State last weekend, so it's not a team we can take for granted. But if we play close to the way we played against Ball State in games 2, 3, and 4, then I think we ought to be successful.
Yeah, and you always have to worry about traveling in the middle of the week to play somewhere because you start at a disadvantage. You just have to overcome that.
Well, it's certainly not the ideal situation. It just comes down to scheduling, and it's the only place you can get the thing in there. But I think with Chris and Hector and Scotty and Mike, our senior kids, be the last time they go to Lewis. Certainly Lewis has become quite a rivalry for us, probably next to Ball State. It's as much a heated rivalry, and some of that goes back to when I coached the women's team as well. Our kids will be ready to play.
Then your scheduling is such that you've given the team Friday night off, but then Saturday night Ohio State comes in here.
Well, that's right. Of course, we'll get back home relatively late on Wednesday, and so we'll just do video stuff on Thursday, lift and do video stuff and no practice, and then practice on Friday, and look forward to playing the Buckeyes on Saturday.
We have had quite a rivalry with them, too. In fact, we owe them for our last meeting. That blizzard we drove through to play at St. John's Arena and lose in 5. As poorly as we played, we still almost won that match.
I don't think they'll have any problem getting our kids motivated to play Ohio State. No, that's part of it, obviously, and hopefully also that we'll still be tied with them for the conference lead. But in the same token, once again, Hector and Renee, those kids all go back and forth. They're all good friends, but the rivalry has been a very good one in the 4 years that all those kids have been here. Those kids are all the same age, So I don't think it'll be difficult for our team to get up and ready to play. And we would anticipate having a crowd like what we had when Ball State was here. So it'll be a fun night.
Yeah, it'll be nice to have a crowd in excess of 2,000 again with the gym nearly full, or better yet, standing room only. That'll help.
Yeah, we just need to figure out how to get the fans to come just a tad earlier, once again, the Ball State match at 2 minutes till 7, maybe there are half the people there, and at 5 minutes after 7, they're all there. You know, it's like a mad rush, and so, but it's a nice thing to have. It's a great crowd last weekend.
And then next week, we go out to California, play an important Long Beach tournament, unless I've totally screwed up our housing arrangements. And
yeah, we may be sleeping on the beach.
We may be sleeping on the beach.
As long as it doesn't rain, we don't care. We'll be we'll sleep with the bag people.
What do you? We got a minute to go, and I'm really afraid to ask him another question.
Come on, I'm anxious.
You're anxious for another question?
I'm anxious.
Okay, give us a prediction on Ohio State. How many games? What will be our service ace to error ratio against Ohio State? It was 0 to 38 last time.
It'll be better.
It'll be better.
It'll be better than that.
Or there will be body parts to clean up.
You know what?
Right?
That match could be long and ugly. I think they had 27 or 28 service errors against Lewis when they beat Lewis.
They had that many against us.
And they don't jump serve like we do, so that sucker could be really long. People might want to, bring an extra bottle of water or something because they last a long time. But I'm thinking 3-1 on that one too.
3-1 on that.
I like the way our kids are playing, and we'll be ready to play on that match.
For our sponsors, Touchstone Energy, Fujifilm, Dan Gebhardt, and head coach Arnie Ball, I'm Mark Franke saying thanks for watching and so long.